What is going on? Welcome to Cash Flow Friday, where the goal is to get you to have passive income, specifically in real estate, and get to at least 10K or more. And what are the things that we can do here to continue to get you to focus on the mindset and what you can do, and tell a little bit of the successes that I've learned along the way. So I'm gonna get straight into it. A lot of you guys have either reached out or asked a question about, Jabari, what I had a question that came up, and the question was from one of our Zoom calls. And see if I can find it. And it was in relation to somebody's wanting to start investing in real estate and they're about to buy their first fourplex. And they were trying to see, like, what are the things I need to focus on. So today I was going to go over case study, some of the things that I have found out that has worked. And like one of the things I realized when you study case studies of other entrepreneurs, you can realize, oh man, I can apply that same mindset on the long-term journey that I want to be able to invest in real estate. And then two, some of the goal setting. And I think that's going to really hit on that question that the young lady had, and then some of the resources I want to give to you guys. So I'm gonna jump straight into it. Now, I got my whiteboard behind me, and so I want to talk about case study. So I want you to think about, like, let's say you bought three homes, and they are all on the same street. Okay, so this is here. Door one, door two, door three. All right. So you bought three properties, and I know my mentor who did this, and this is the power of understanding, like, the long-term benefits that comes with real estate. So bought this property, and when they bought it, they knew, all right, well, if I have a value of 100K here, 100K here, 100K here. Now, the one thing you want to look at is, like, look at the neighborhoods of where this is at. Now, let's say you hear in the news that they're going to have some big company is coming into town. This can be company, this can be project that the city is having. It just have to be something that's going to help the houses in this area go up in value. All right. So now, let's say you went in and bought these properties. Let's just say with zero money down, because that's what I teach. So let's say you acquired this property with zero money down, and then you use that to leverage this one, and then you did the same thing here. All right. So now you have a total of 300K in value on a property. Now, here's the thing: when this get built, this is going to appreciate. So let's go here, appreciation. The value of these properties to go up. So that means that anytime you have studied your area, your home, or wherever you're investing, if you know that something is coming, company, I got project, and like, so I've lived in a lot of college towns, and oftentimes that can be the driving force. And if I say, all right, well, this is like maybe a 3-year to 5-year plan. That means that within the next 3 to 5 years, this company project thing is going to become to complete. But I buy my property early on where I know, hey, I got these three properties for $100,000. All right. And I've utilized the method that Jabari was talking about, how you get these properties zero down. And, I know of some of the things that's coming up. And so I have $300,000 on my balance sheet, on my income statement. Right. And I'm getting rent from them. Now, you have terms that you can be able to put these on. Now, the term is going to determine, just like your mortgage. You have a 30-year mortgage. In investing, you can decide if I want to do 10 years. I can do 15 years. I can do 20 years. Oftentimes, when we do investments, a 20-year with a 5-year amortization. So let's say you are not so much cash flow needed, so therefore you're focusing on equity. So that means you want to look at the equity that these properties are going to bring, because I know over here, this project, this event, this thing that is coming in the next 3 to 5 years is going to drive up the value and give me a better appreciation. So if it's going to give me a better appreciation, that means that these houses are going to be worth much more than $300,000. Now, here's another cool thing. You have these rented out. Let's say you haven't rented out the bare minimum because you're not so focused on cash flow. You have a good job. You're committed to the work that you're doing, and you enjoy the work you're doing. You don't need no extra income. You just want to plug your money somewhere and let it work for you. Okay. So let's say within that 5-year term, let's just say it got paid down to $90K. Okay. $90K. Over let's just go ahead and go to longest, let's go to shortest, since 3 years. All right. And so over the 3 years, so for those just joining, let's say that I bought these properties, and the properties that I bought, I got it for $100K. I utilized the zero down method that I teach, and that how we have been able to build the equity in real estate with zero down leverage and then zero down. So it's a total of $300,000. I know over here, project, company, something is coming up. I've studied the research, or I look at my real estate investors. I've looked at them and they've told me, hey, these are the things that's going to be coming up. So if you can buy property now and buy and hold, let's take advantage of it, regardless of the rates, right? So over 3 years, let's say this property, the value of these totaled it went from 100,000. Let's just keep it simple. Let's just say they went up $50,000. All right. So that means this is going to go up to 150 within 3 years, 150 within 3 years, 150 within 3 years. Now, here's a cool thing. I put these on 10-year terms. So within 3 years, I have now 7 years left on my term, which means I paid down the value of these properties a lot. So if I pay down the value and these mortgages are high, and I with very minimum $90,000, so now 150, you got 300, that's 450. So now appreciation has went up, and that same property that I own is $450K. But wait, I also have been having tenants in it, and they've been paying down the rent. So how much do I actually own these properties? Now let's go with my map now. So you have 9, 18, 270. All right. Shout out to my nines. Like study your nines, right? So that now the value of these is 9, is 90, 180, 270. Okay. So if it's 270 and it appreciated at 450, what is that? All my math people. Who out there looking? Can y'all get it quicker than me? 270. So I got 180K in equity that I built up. And so why do I say this? Time is going to pass. And the biggest thing I think I want people to realize is that when you learn to buy a real estate deal and you understand what's going on in the area, appreciation is going to always be in your interest. If you're equity focused, meaning you're focusing on the equity that you want to be able to accomplish or gain by owning these property, then you're not so much big on the cash flow. So that's what I'm focused on. I'm not huge. This is like equity focused person. Most people who, got a good, decent job are just planning for the future, because people who plan for the future understand the value of buying today, buying the property today, because what they do understand is this, that if I buy this property right now and I know this company, this project, this event that is going on that's going to increase the value of the property value, the appreciation gonna help. And in this case, we did 3 years and I already got 180,000. And no money out of my pocket. And I'll leverage each property against itself utilizing the zero down method. Shameless plug. Go to my link. I'm gonna be doing the training a little bit more in depth about how we done this. And if you want my free cash flow sheet, link is in my description below. So register for that, completely free. And I'm gonna go into this a little bit more in depth. So if you say, hey, Jabari, I want to understand what you're talking about the zero down method. I've seen you post that, or I've seen some of your clients talk about it. So go my link in my bio, or if you're on Facebook or YouTube, you should see a link below. It'll have a page where you can go to it. But here's the thing. So we utilize that. So this person actually now had got to the point where they have almost maxed out this property to getting to pay it off. So they got to the 5 years, and all it was is start appreciation more and more. Well, guess what happened is when you just buy and hold. This is why I love buy and hold. Because what's going to happen is this. This is going to come in, this project, this company, this thing that you studied in the market, and it's going to drive values up. What's it going to drive value to up? Now, over time, let's go 5 years. Let's just say it goes up $100,000. All right? 200, 200, 200. All right? So now that's 246, and I got in the property. But also, here's the thing. Someone has been paying down the rent that whole time. So another 2 years, now I've also have utilized these properties. And let's just say, for simple terms, let's just say we went to 70K. So now we owe 70K, 70K, 70K. So now, what's that? 1421? So now we owe 21K on all 3 of these properties. But now, if it's risen from all 3 of these have risen to 246, so it's 600,000 in value. So if I say 600K, then what's the difference there? What's that? 390? I think that's 390. What my quick math people? Is that 390? I think that's 390. Let me see. Y'all not gonna comment. Okay, that's all good. You can use that to get another home. Yeah, I feel you, Neil. So let me see. I think that's 390 though. My math. I have 600 minus, what's that? 310? Yep, 390. All right, cool. Guess what? Now I got 390,000. So this is where people go wrong. And this is why it's better to buy and hold, because now 5 years, I didn't do anything. I just bought these 3 properties. I sat on them. I studied the market. Now I got $390,000 that I can use. Here's what you should do. Instead of taking that 390 you can take that 390 and now what you can do with that? You have $390,000. You can get a line of credit. And that line of credit will now allow you to either do one, buy more properties. And now you can probably either leverage that to go find something that's going to be more cash, that's going to maybe focus on a little bit more cash flow. Now, maybe the cash flow from that project, maybe cash flow you $1,000. Or you're buying in the same area because you realize, man, this thing is coming and they adding on to it. What's going to happen? Well, the only thing that's going to happen is it's going to continue to rise in value. And so I look at this case study and I can go so many directions. But what it showed is like once you study the market and when you are very clear on what's happening. I had a mentor of mine. They did this and put it on 10-year notes. And those 10 years notes, they end up taking a line of credit out. What can you do? Guess what? It's better to take out a line of credit than to sell capital gains, because guess what? What can they tax you on when you sell a property? but they can't tax you on debt. I'm going to say that again. If you take an equity, a home line of credit out, they can't tax you on debt. They can tax you if you sell those properties. But if you leverage time, buy and hold, what happens over time? Then you use that line of credit and do what? That line of credit will allow you to get another property. And then at that point, you are now having maybe 4, or maybe you have a high cash flow, or maybe all of this just raise up your value. You have almost $600,000, and based on how you use this right here, that 390. Can you see that? Just realized my mic was in the way. My bad. That 390. Now you have a cash flow, maybe of $1,000, and maybe you also have a higher equity property as well, because guess what? You went to go buy that, and now let's say you have 200K in equity because you use that 390 as a down payment. So now, not only did you leverage the 390 to go buy something and get $200,000 equity, now I got almost $800,000. I got almost $800,000. I'm almost have $1 million in just equity over 4 properties, and I bought them 0 down out the gate, $100,000. Now you can find like these properties a lot of places. So I'm gonna say this again for those of you who's looking on YouTube and Facebook. I'm gonna have a training next Friday at 2:30. Sign up below, completely free. Where I'm gonna go into more depth about how we did this, how we train me and my wife build up our investments. But also, if you want to get like, okay, if I want to understand like the cash flow side, I got a free cash flow sheet, completely free. But if take advantage of it. If not, that's on you. So why do I share this? Because if you can tap into the mindset of like the long-term goals of real estate investing, and you can stop focusing on the short term, then you can take advantage of the appreciation, the equity. But then also, I had somebody do this and they pay for their own personal home. This is when you start getting into, like, you don't realize that you can start living off of this if you do it right. Like, this is a very small case study I wanted to bring to you, and someone did this at a very large scale. And here's the thing, I did the exact same thing. And it's only your ability to see what is possible to understand what you need to do right now. Now, why will somebody like yourself won't take advantage of this? Because number one, you don't have the mindset. I talk about this often, is that you are stuck in an employee mindset, that a 9 to 5. And that's why I'm always huge on Cash Flow Friday, is because I had to go through a process of iteration about, having a perfect answer. Why? Because schooling teaches is like, if you don't have the right answer, what's going to happen? Well, you going to fail. And if you fail because you don't have a perfect answer, I mean, you have to go through life always having it right. Instead of making mistakes, having iteration, having what is called ingenuity, and ingenuity saying, hey, what is a creative way I need to go about it? Instead of thinking about it this way, maybe I need to change my mind and go this way. So all that to say is, focus on the ability and case studies like this, and also learn from those who have done it. It don't even have to be me. I'm completely fine if you don't sign up for the training, but realize that this is benefiting someone else. And here's why I always tell everybody that on my residential investment side, like, listen, you're going to be staying in something. You're going to be staying in a home. When COVID came, guess what? People need houses. What did they give people who needed a stipend for? They give them stipends to be able to pay their bills. Now, what they did with it, that's their business. But here's the reality, is that everybody's going to need a place to live. Everybody's going to need a roof. Okay? End of the day. And the reality is, if you're that person that's owning that roof, that home, then what's going to happen? They're going to make sure they pay you. And then over time, what's going to happen? Now, here a lot of you guys have been faithful to being a good landlord, paying on time. And guess what? You've helped people like myself out. But here's the thing. I always give you all the game and say, take advantage of this, and don't be the person who's sitting on the sideline and you look up 5 or 10 years like, man, I should have gotten real estate investing. So why do I say all that? I'm not going to even go into rest because I think I did a good job at illustrating that. Next week, next Friday at 2:30, I'm going to have a training. Even if you can't make it, but you want to hear the replay, make sure in my description on YouTube and Facebook, you can be able to register for it for free and learn how to take advantage of real estate investing. Now, I did say somebody submitted a question. I wanted to answer their question about what are the things I need to focus on if I am going to buy my first fourplex. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Let me see, because I want to make sure I answer the questions to the T that I think the individual had, because it was a good question. And I think, when we go through, to be honest with you, it's so hard for somebody to really take the time out to show you this. And the reality is, me and my wife was like, did nobody tell us this? Like, people pointed us to the books, people pointed us to, and that's what you have to do. And let me see, what was her last name? She had that question. And the reality is, if you don't take the time to do the necessary work, here we go. All right. So her question was, she said, okay. Sorry about that. So the question was, it may be in Zoom right now. Hold on. Shout out to my people in Zoom. So the question was, I'm working with buying my first time investment with a fourplex and wondering what information I should focus on before purchasing it. All right. So what should I focus on before purchasing it? Okay. So here is my answer to that. All right. So this young lady want to buy a fourplex. So let's go ahead and get a fourplex. And what are the things you need to focus on when you're looking at buying a fourplex? So number one, you hear people say this is location. Because what is going on in one area, maybe you got to ask yourself, is it going to be a great, I just talked about this, an equity play or cash flow? Because cash flow in any deal can be higher, but that means it's not much growth going on sometimes, not all the time. But if you're looking at a cash flow, if you're looking at a fourplex that is in the area already and it's already developed, you got to ask yourself, like, is this Section 8 tenants? Is this going to be new construction? Meaning, is the city putting enough infrastructure in that area where rents and short-term rentals have opportunity? So you need to focus on, like, okay, because if there's no restrictions when it comes to short-term rentals, if there's no restrictions in that area, you need to check with the city. You need to have real estate investors that understand what's going on, or you need to be the individual who's educating yourself and asking these questions about, if I'm looking at investment properties and I'm looking at deals, is it going to be a cash flow play or equity play? All right, so that's number one. And next is repairs. Always, when you walk a property and you realize, all right, well, is this property built in, 1971? Because if it built in 1971, has it had any remodels? And I always say, one of my students have an acronym, and I forget what it was called, but it's like, I need to look at the roof, look at the foundation, look at the electric, look at the plumbing, water heater, and I always forget, that's your foundation, plumbing. I had an acronym for it, and I'm just drawing a blank right now. But you need to look at these things, because in 1971, anything that was before that, you have to think about lead-based paint. So if lead-based paint was an issue, then what I need to be aware of is, if they've not done any repairs to this home in that area, then guess what? Then maybe the price I'm going to pay is going to be less, because I have to put money into it. And this is like great buys, and this is like one of the core things about the zero down method that we've utilized, and you're not using hard money loans, you're not using the bank money, and you understand how they process, like how they view the bank, how they view the deal, how they're going to view the deal, and how they need to underwrite the deal. And once you learn how to underwrite these deals, that's key. So that's two. I would say three. Like, what is your long term goal when it comes to the property? Like, what's the goal here? Like, is it going to be, um, like I say, equity or cash flow? Because whether it's equity or cash flow, then at that time you will, um, you will know when you need to sell to be able to get something else, or cash flow. If I'm wanting to get to a higher amount of cash flow, then I'm just going to make sure I'm monitoring the neighborhood, the areas, and what is going on like in the area. Like, do they have, like I said at the beginning, it kind of goes back to location when it comes to your goal. I always think about this because it's black and white for me, and like we're looking at one deal analyzing that's near, it's going to be new construction. Oftentimes new construction in the beginning it's going to be an equity play, because that equity play means that, hey, I just need to pay it, I want to pay it down over time. And what's going to happen is, if I pay it down over time, that puts me in position where at some point I would be able to use that equity to either buy something else that's going to cash flow higher than that, or um, I can be able to raise the rents over time because I'm paying it down. I can refinance. So it's a lot of different things. Other than that, when it comes to like a fourplex, I would see, you need to make sure if it's being rented out right now. Oftentimes when you have fourplexes, what's the rents? Is it below market? You need to know the market. I use Renometer for a lot of my rents to see if something is going to be, like I say, under market or unappreciated. And then you need to say, what is it going to take for you to be able to increase those rent? Do they have tenants? Those tenants, do they have 12 months lease? Do they have 6 month lease? Or are they month to month? Can you come in and just go ahead and replace their lease? And can I go in and replace their lease immediately, or do I have to wait 6 months? Because that's going to affect like what your cash flow is. And obviously when you're getting a loan, the bank is going to ask you a few questions when it comes to like, what is the current cash flow? Because also you got to say, okay, if I'm putting 10% down, 20% down, or I'm utilizing the method that you talk about, then where do I need to be at? So when it comes to that, you have to say, like, you have to take whatever the cash flow is, and let's just say the cash flow is 4,000. Most of the time the banks are going to take a certain percentage from, like, that's your gross. So it's your gross rent. And then they're going to say, all right, well, we are only going to allow, out of that, I'm going to take out 30%. Let me see what that is, because I'm not about to act like I got it figured out. All right. 0.30. So it's 1,200. So 4,000 minus 1,200 is gonna leave me with 2,800. So let's say this is the mortgage. And if that's the mortgage and that's the expense that's gonna take to be able to get it, then maybe this is a good deal. And if it goes below that and this number is starting to get closer to that 30%, the bank is not going to loan it. So you need to understand how the bank is going to underwrite it, because that's going to make or have a determining factor for you as well. So, hold on one second, buddy. Yeah, you can have a hug. All right. So with that being said, got my little people coming. So wrapping it up, when it comes to analyzing a deal, I said you were coming in here. No, you said wrap it up. I said I'm about to wrap it up. That's right. So all that to say is that when you're analyzing a deal, understand these few things, and then obviously, get with your banker. Hello, Daddy. Hello. Make sure you get with your banker and make sure he is the one that's helping you understand like how to analyze these deals and what it's going to take and what's your interest rate, and make sure you're cash flowing. So those things should be able to get you where you're at when you're thinking about the deals. And like I said, y'all ever have questions or thoughts about when it comes to analyzing deal, make sure you go to the link below, register so that I can see what your questions is and I can come on Cashflow Friday and answer them. So I appreciate you for submitting your questions. If you guys have more questions or you say, hey, I want to join your free training, once again, go in the bio if you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. Link is in the bio for our training for next Friday at 2:30. I'm going to go into a little bit more depth and presentation about all this. But other than that, make sure if you didn't come from a wealthy family come from you. I'll see you next time.